Thanks for the intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome to TEDxLagos. It's a pleasure to be in your company. Well, let me start by telling you about a site visit, a customer site visit I made not too long ago. So typically, I like to visit customers and talk to them one-on-one, get a feel, get a pulse of what's going on with the customers, and also get 360 feedback from the customers. So I go to this customer, and I wait at the reception for somebody to come get me to take me to the MD's office. And as I walk to the MD's office, I'm walking past this row of people, employees left and right with their computers, and on their computers, I could see our software running. And the software that's running, on the different screens, I can see different people performing different kinds of operations and just doing their job. And, a couple of feelings hit me at exactly that point. The first one was exhilaration, intense exhilaration. I felt really, really good. Really good that we were making a product that wasn't just a product that was out there, but people were actually using it. I could see it having an impact. People were using it to run their business end to end, from the financials, their operations, to their data mining and everything. Then at the same time though, there's one other feeling that I also had, and that feeling was a feeling of intense fear. And I mean, those two feelings came together at practically the same time. And why fear? Because at that point, something also hit me, that this was no longer trivial. You see, this company that I was doing this site visit at that point, they were the largest brokerage investment company in the country. And I could see that if our software, if something were to go down, something were to go wrong, the impact would be significant. The impact will be felt. People are going to lose money. Potentially, jobs could be lost. That fear created this intense feeling. This feeling of, the kind of feeling, the adrenaline rush. And when you get that kind of adrenaline rush, there's the typical impact that you get, which is this idea of fight or flight. Now, for me, I'm the kind of person, I tend to gravitate towards the fight mode. And when you have that fight mode in your belly, it creates that adrenaline rush, which creates that burning desire. That burning desire, go out there and do something about that. So let me just step back a moment and say, our product, enterprise software, has its nuances and certain things that you kind of have to deal with as you go along with it. Enterprise software is a rather complicated beast. To run an entire business, you have to do all kinds of things, financials, the operational side of things, the business mining, and all that kind of stuff. But along with that, though, comes this rather interesting ecosystem, which has to do with putting out a lot of fires. So I'll give you a couple of instances. There was a product that we're working on. Basically, it had to do with building a bunch of web services that will enable our clients to scale out. Very complicated. We've been working on it for a pretty long time. But it got to the point where it was supposed to be done, at least we thought it was done, and we're going to deliver it. Then, while everything looked like it was done, we now realized, some little thing needed to be cleaned up. And then we started working on it. Well, it took us literally 12 hours to get it done. And we couldn't let go. I couldn't let go because we had a deadline to meet. And it was massively critical that we meet that deadline because there would be consequences if we didn't meet it. So, at the same time, there is another kind of example. Literally, rather like 12 hours after that incident, we got this other client that called us, again, one of our other big clients, and they complained about an issue, you know. And the issue this time, we thought this one was, again, we looked at it, had no clue what to do with it actually at that point, and we thought it was going to take a long time. But that one actually ended up taking just literally 10 minutes to fix. So one of the key points I want to pass across is that in the enterprise software space, there is nothing like normal a lot of the time, even though the space itself might appear somewhat boring sometimes. There's this thing about being ready to put out fires and being ready to have that adrenaline rush that's going to keep driving you. And that's where you, we come to the issue of the you. In order to build an enterprise software company, there has to be that you and the drive, the passion, the adrenaline rush, and that fire in your belly that propels you forward and makes you do the things that even you did not believe you'd be able to do. So, first thing, most likely, you have to be competitive. It's a competitive world. And quite frankly, to some extent, it's like there's a book I like, it's called The Art of War. To some extent, in some areas of it, you have to look at this thing like a battle, like a strategy. And sometimes you have to lose some battles in order to win some wars. It's a cohesive strategy that you have to approach and you have to go for it. So the you there, what I'm trying to say here is that you have to have your own inner compass. You have to have that inner compass that drives you continuously and that serves, it propels you forward in the direction that you want to go. So, for instance, I had a mentor that I was talking to and asking for advice. And I went to him, and he basically told me, he said, okay, look, yes, you're building a very good product here. This was in the early days, by the way. It looks good and all that. But you know what I think you really should do? I actually think you should go out and be a distributor. Go look at these enterprise software companies out there, the IBMs, the Oracle, and all the rest of this world, and just take it, sell it, implement it. That's what everybody else is doing. But that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to create. That's me. That's my passion. And that's the message that I would like to give to other people here. When you're being told, here is the direction you should go, look at your inner compass and decide what you are passionate about. What can you work on for 18 straight hours and not get up except for a bathroom break? Make sure that that's the thing that you take forward and you drive yourself forward with. Then there is the act of not just you now. For you to succeed, you need people around you. Now, I'm going to ask us to do a little bit of a thought experiment, and it has to do with dealing with people. So, the thought experiment is this. If Albert Einstein had never existed, what would the world look like today? You all know most likely of the theory of relativity. Would there have been no theory of relativity or not? Now, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know how the world would have looked like. It's a thought experiment. It could have been it could have gone in any direction. But my point is this though. You see, people, every company will say people are your most valued assets, and it's very, very true. But when you're running a software enterprise company, or quite frankly, to a large extent, any company that has a lot to do with intellectual property, the thing that can sometimes happen is that you could have this situation where certain personas can become larger than life. And the question is, what happens if they just up and leave tomorrow? What's your contingency plan? So educate your train your users, not your users, your people, grow them, train them as much as you can, but also make sure that you have a 360-degree view of what you're doing and make sure that you have some sort of contingency plan when you're dealing with people. I don't hear that being mentioned a lot. People tend to talk, grow your people, work with people. That's true. But do you have a contingency plan? Then, your customers. These, again, your customer is one of the pillars that form your ability to be successful in whatever you do. Now, when it comes to customers, there's a saying that I like to say, that I tell myself all the time, which is that when you're dealing with customers, and quite frankly, when you're dealing with maybe any kind of category of people, it's my responsibility to make myself understood, not the responsibility of the customer to understand me. And my point there is that a lot of the time, technical people, whether you build enterprise software or build anything technical, we can run into this narrow mentality of they build it and they will come, which is kind of, you guys may have heard about the VHS versus Betamax battle back in the day, which is if my product is technically superior, if my product is so good, because you can see it so well, you know your product is good, you know it can do everything, it's better than sliced bread, but do other people see it? So you have to be able to communicate with your customers. The other thing also, apart from being able to communicate your value prop to your customers, which you have to do in such a way that you are actually uh, listening to them, is also, I'll call it that, how do you go after your customers? Now, when you are in startup mode and before you grow big, at least, every customer potential seems like a viable client. But the trick is, though, from what my experience has shown, you have to be selective about your customers. Just like when you're picking the people you work with, you will naturally be selective to make sure you're aligned. With your customers also, you have to be selective because not every customer necessarily shares the same vision. And in the enterprise software space, where the customer segment, because it's a B2B segment where you tend to be dealing not with the retail segment of millions of people, but literally businesses that are mostly hundreds, in that space, word of mouth is very, very key. So if you pick a customer, which in my view, I consider customers as partners, that is not well aligned to your objectives and your goals, you could really be host. So the next pillar that I'll talk about are your shareholders. Now, the shareholders, they fall into multiple segments and multiple categories. At the beginning, you tend to be hunting for funding. You're looking for money to run the business and you're hoping to bootstrap. Well, in the software space, I would say we are lucky in the sense that everybody heard about starting businesses from a garage. It's a lot of the time you can basically start it with my computer, and the garage. You crank away at it. You can have a regular day job, and you can have a side job of a 9 to 12 kind of thing where you're cranking away code and churning away the product. So, but at some point though, you could get big enough that people actually come to you to offer you money and to offer you funds. Well, in my journey, I think I've been relatively lucky with respect to the kind of shareholders that we've had. But I know, and by the way, one of the reasons why I've been that lucky was because I have looked at the experiences of some of the people that I've surrounded myself with, not employees at our company per se, but people that I talk to on a regular basis, which is that your shareholders sometimes can be your biggest albatross because they may have a vision and a direction that doesn't necessarily align with where you want to go to. If the nature of the returns that they are looking for is more short term, it can serve to basically derail you and make you move into a wrong direction. In the enterprise software space, it's much slower to grow. It is more complicated. It's a complicated beast, even to develop and to come up with a product. So you tend to need to have quite frankly, a more long-term view of where you're going. And therefore, you need people and shareholders that share that long-term view and can help support you in driving your business in the right direction. Then, this slide, I would say there is a story about the overnight success. I think really, literally, the real true overnight success that we can potentially really point to most of the time is the guy that wins the lottery. And I'm sure anybody that's good at math know the odds of winning the lottery is pretty low. That's why the lottery tends to be called the poor man's tax, or maybe people are just deficient in math. So the overnight success most of the time, and most people will say, tends to take 10 years to make. And actually, statistics have shown that. So the point here is that there really is literally nothing, basically not much like the overnight success. There will be the few exceptions that you can point to, but those few exceptions, even in the real space, like if some people point to the Facebooks, and not Facebook itself, but some examples that exist out there, they are the exceptions. They are like the guy that wins the lottery. The question is, do you want to base your business, do you want to base your what you're trying to do on winning the lottery or not? You might, but remember, the odds are you probably wouldn't. And you do not want to frustrate yourself in that regard. So, to round this up, right, the thing to note is that, like I said, there is the you. To round this up, there's the you. You need to have your inner compass. You need to have your passion that drives you. You need to surround yourself with the right type of people. You have to find the right kind of customers. Of course, you have to make sure you have the right product line. And then, of course, and shareholders. And then finally, no matter what, you should have fun. You're going to be spending most of your time at work. You're going to be spending, usually when you start, 8, 12 hours at work. If it's not something you have fun at, then it's not worth it. So, with that, I'll say thank you for listening.